and welcome to God's Hookups television show. This is Dr. Barbara Young, your host, and this is a show that features up-close and personal interviews with guests from all walks of life who share their stories about unexplainable blessings, successful events, and extraordinary miracles and encounters that can only be of God's hookup. You will receive hope, enlightenment, encouragement that will feed your spirit and your soul. Now, to my guest today. Well, hello, and help me welcome today my guest, Miss Patty Grimm. Hi, Patty. Welcome to God's Hookup Show. I'm so delighted to have you on the show today. Well, I want to share with my viewers out there that Patty is an empowerment expert for organizations, leaders, teams, and women. She has her own company, and she has done so much to really help womankind and a few men. And she has her own training and consulting company. She's been on many stages. What Patty really loves is educating and empowering women and girls to be the best they can be. She's written a book called Quiet Women Never Change History. Be strong, stand up, and stand out, with a subtitle, Let's Go Kick Some Glass. So it is my pleasure to welcome Patty Grimm today, who's going to share her God's Hookup story. So Patty, welcome, and again, loving you on the show today.
I think it's a mutual love fest here because Dr. Barbara, you are amazing in what you do. And I'm going to make a comment. I simply love your hair natural the way it is today. I know some people might be a little bit surprised to see you this way, and your pictures are so lovely, but you are so beautiful in this natural, amazing hair. I would keep it.
Well, it's so hot. I don't have too much choice. I think I'm going to just sort of, this is just it. Out of the shower, this is it.
Yep. It looks lovely.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So Patty, tell me, you've had quite an experience, really almost, dying. So share a little bit about that. Wow.
Yeah. So, I've had an amazing life. I've had three amazing corporate careers, right? I was with a big bank. I graduated from college as a teacher. At that time, Proposition 13 came along and all new teachers got laid off. And so I ended up falling into banking. And I went from being a part-time teller in college to being one of the youngest women vice presidents for a big California bank. And I left that successful job and started my own company the first time. And then I got hired by a major global international technology company, Microsoft. I was hired by Microsoft in 1999, and I had an amazing career, right? I traveled the world. I was in every city on your bucket list. I probably have been in that city in some time in my life. And literally the 15th year of my career was when things went from when I was a rock star. I was on the corporate ladder of success. I was put on an executive potential program to be one of the next senior executives at the company. And I literally hit rock bottom so hard that I couldn't stop my fall. I literally felt like I had climbed up that corporate ladder and I was falling down rung by rung. And no matter what I did to try and stop myself, I couldn't stop my fall. I was working 70 and 80 hours a week. I worked every night and every weekend. I would get up in the morning and I would put on my happy face after I'd been crumpled on the bathroom floor, going from the job I used to love and traveling the world and making a difference for people, all of a sudden sitting on the bathroom floor in tears, not able to get up. And I was going to doctors and nurses and nurse practitioners and naturopaths, trying to find out what was wrong with me. And they all kept telling me I had adrenal gland failure, I had anxiety, I had depression. If I didn't take care of myself, I was into real serious trouble. And I finally went to one doctor who sat there and looked at me. And I call this my failing forward with vision moment, my God's hookup failing forward with vision moment. When I'm sitting in front of this doctor and she takes out that notepad, which I thought she was going to write me another prescription. And I don't know about you, Barbara, or Dr. Barbara, but I'm one of these people that I believe all those, side effects that are going to happen to, like I started losing my hair. I started getting itchy all over. I was starting experiencing all these things from the drugs doctors were giving me. So it wasn't working. So when she took out this notepad and started to write something out, I screamed, no more drugs, please, no more drugs. I can't take this. I need something else. And she looked at me and said, Patty, if you don't take care of yourself, you'll be dead in 6 months. Now, that's quite a wake-up call. I mean, I drove home from the doctor's office. We lived in Washington at the time. And I drove home and cried the entire way. I mean, hysterical, deep, deep crying. I couldn't figure out what to do. I walked into our home and my husband looked at me and obviously saw I was in hysterics. And I was crying so deeply that I couldn't even get it out to him. And the doctor told me that she was either going to make me take a 4-month sabbatical or a period of time off from work, or she was going to put me on a medical leave of absence. And I chose to go on a sabbatical and take that time to refine myself. I spent a lot of time doing a lot of self-searching, a lot of extreme self-care. And one day it kind of hit me, like that old commercial, I could have had a V8, right? That funny, funny old commercial out there. I realized what happened to me wasn't the company's fault. I'd given up on me. I'd given up on God. I was no longer letting God, I was still very committed to God, but I was no longer praying and letting God control my life. I was letting everybody else in my life tell me, Patty, go left, Patty, go right. You should take this job. You should do that. I even moved overseas to Singapore for 3 years and ran our Asia Pacific region for a period of time and then came back to the US after the 3 years. And so I had this successful career, but I was at rock bottom. And I had to find my way back out. And it really hit me that I had given up on me. I'd given up on God. I worked every night and every weekend. I didn't take time for family or friends to do the things that I loved. And so in that time when I took my time off, I would get up in the morning, and I have 2 pugs, and I would walk my pugs in the forest because we live close to a forest with music on to inspire me. And I started to pick up the daily bread. And I started to redo my entire life and morning routine. I went from getting up at 5:30 in the morning to do email and working all day and doing email and then coming home, having dinner with my family, and then turning around and doing email till midnight. I stopped that. I changed my life. I literally had this aha moment that I had failed. And I had failed before in my life, but I'd always failed forward. I hadn't failed forward this time. And I needed to create a new vision for myself that included God. So my morning routine now starts with 10 sun salutations while I pray. I pray several times in the day. I end every evening with a prayer. I say to God, I put my faith in you. I put my fate and my faith in you and my fortune and my future in your hands. God, take the wheel. Tell me what I'm supposed to be doing. And that moment, I really got so inspired that it did inspire me to dedicate my life to empowering women and girls to be the best they can be in any endeavor they choose. And from that time, I've been so clear on my vision for my life and the legacy and the kind of person I want to be that I encourage every person, every woman in particular, to craft their own personal leadership vision of the kind of leader they want to be or the kind of person they want to be, right? So think about your life and think about in 5 years, if you're sitting on your favorite show, maybe you're being interviewed by Dr. Barbara and it's your favorite show, and you're surrounded by your friends and family and the people you work with and the people in your church, and you're surrounded by your managers, everybody who loves you, and you're sitting on Dr. Barbara's show, and they're all saying, wow, here's the kind of person she is or he is. I mean, she makes a difference. She is impactful. She's compassionate. She believes and dedicates her life to Christ and to making the world a better place. And I want you to use that vision that came from God to drive your life, to make career and life decisions so that you become the kind of leader you want to be today. And you start making those kind of indecisions that say, this is what I'm meant to do. This is why God put me on this planet. In my book, I kind of talk about these 5 ways to be an empowered woman leader that we won't have time to go into today. But the first one, I do want to talk about 2 of them in particular. The first one is play to your strengths. See, God put you on this earth with a set of talents and strengths and unique things that make you who you are. And I want you to be the best you because everybody else is taken. So find jobs and opportunities and volunteer and do things that play to your strengths because you'll be happier, you'll have less stress, you'll be more productive in your life. You'll be so much happier if you have that. And the second thing is to go write your personal vision. In order to stand up, you need something to stand on, and that should be God. You should be standing on God's shoulders or standing by his side and saying, help me be the kind of person I know I want to be. And then choose your decisions about the ways that's going to fit you. So that's a little bit of my story. Would love to hear if you have any questions or anything we want to chat about.
Well, I really, really want to thank you for being so transparent, Patty, number one, and sharing your experiences. I do have a few questions to sort of elaborate, because when you're on like a fast track and you were
What
going,
is a fast track?
I mean, you were fast tracking, girl. And,
Yeah.
and let me tell you, all this time you knew God, but you weren't really tuned in or tuned up. We should say, I like to say.
I was not tuned up. I was tuned in. I never lost faith.
Yeah.
But I wasn't tuned up.
Right. So what do you think was your hardest, or I don't like to use the word hardest, but the most challenging part of getting back on track? Because there are a lot of people right now who are viewing this show who are saying, well, that's great for you, but we're going through this pandemic. I'm stuck. I can't get out. I don't know what I'm going to do. What was it for you? And the challenging part that just got you moving in that right direction?
What's interesting is I also talk a lot about building resiliency and agility and grit. And I think what happened is I sort of lost confidence in myself. I started to doubt myself. And I really started to try and be perfect at everybody in everything rather than just being true to who I was and what I was good at doing. And that really challenging moment is what happens to a lot of people that are going on right now. And I call it pandemic protests and panic, right? Because we're homeschooling our children. We're having to share our homes full time with our family. We used to be able to go shopping. Now we can go shopping, which I'm a confessed shopaholic, by the way. I have to shop online because I can't try clothes on in the stores. I mean, yeah, we could be girlfriends, right? We don't live that far away from each other. We could meet at the outlet mall.
Shoes, and I want to go out and buy some shoes.
I do too. But really what happens a lot of time in these moments is what I did, which was the biggest mistake you can do, is I shut down. I stopped asking for help from my family, from my managers, from friends, and from God. I stopped asking for help because typically what happens in times of change is that a third of the people typically shut down, and other people try to do other things where they self-medicate, whether it be with food or alcohol or drugs or whatever it happens to be. We try and take care of it ourselves. We don't reach out for help. And I should have reached out for help sooner, not just from my bosses and peers and my family, and admitted I was falling before I fell. Right?
Right.
I could have asked for help. And so I think one of the reasons I'm so passionate about empowering women and girls is I don't want other women to go through what I did. Right? I want to stop or help one woman catch herself sooner or avoid the fall altogether. And so resiliency is the ability to think of your life and your body like a muscle that you need to exercise, and that it's like a rubber band that can stretch but never breaks. And so that resiliency is your ability to bounce back. And good grief, if you're trying to bounce back, reach out to God.
Well, it's interesting too about your story is that sometimes, we have to fall down before we can realize to get up, and that he's there cheering us on. But as long as you're out there doing it all your own, and I know I'm talking to somebody, I may be to the choir, you're out there trying to navigate all these waters, you're trying to navigate family, navigate even church, and yet you're not doing it right. Trying to do it in your own strength. So I really want to thank you for pointing that out, because Patty, you were just, I don't know if you would have survived if you kept going in the direction you were going.
I probably wouldn't have. I probably would have been on, taking a lot of drugs doctors were trying to give me. And one of my favorite Psalms is God is within her and he will not let you fall. If you reach out to him, he will not let you fall. I want you to be, this is also it's Joshua 1:9. I want you to remember to be brave, be fearless, be strong, because you're never alone when you have God in your corner.
That is so true. And Patty, I can't thank you enough for sharing your story today. And more importantly, how you're helping women and you're out there, the champion for women. And
Mhm.
you just mentioned this is the 100 years of our, mention that again.
It's the 100th
Yeah.
100th anniversary of women. This is one of the reasons beyond just wanting to, I mean, we should be celebrating it. And I literally yesterday had to search in the news to find anything that mentioned the women's 100th anniversary at all. And I posted something as my rant moment of we should be celebrating this. Now, we've come a long way, women and girls, but we have a long way to go. And we owe it to the next generation of women and men to leave the world a better place. Women's pay has only gone up 1% in the last decade. That's a shocker for many people. They actually say it'll take until the year 2277 for women to achieve pay parity. That's ridiculous. 13 states still haven't passed the Equal Rights Amendment. So when I talk to women, I sort of use the be strong, be brave, be fearless, Joshua 1.9, and I call it be brave, be bold, be brilliant. Go out and be valuable, be visible, be more vocal.
Absolutely. Well, I love it. And most of all, most importantly for our young women and women who are out there listening, remember the undergirding is God. Have God in your life. And it's not religion. We're talking about relationship. Having a relationship with him. That is your grounding point. And from there, you make leaps and bounds. And I liked what you said too, and I will paraphrase it again, about how God has given each and every one of us unique abilities and skill sets because we were brought here for a particular purpose.
Exactly.
Like that I tell people, and I will share this, listeners, I stay in my lane because one of the things, knowing that when God has a purpose for you, it's clear. You're not going to be like Beth. I'm not going to be like Patty, nor am I going to try to be like her. I'm going to be like how God has created me and stay in your lane. But you got to know what your lane is and stay in. And I always thought about that analogy because when you're driving in California on these freeways or even any place, you try changing a lane without looking and you try changing lanes and see what happens to you.
Yeah.
Stay in your lane. So
stay in your lane.
Yeah.
So in my book, I give people some exercises and recommendations of how they can figure out what their strengths are. One is think about what you love doing. Think about things that bring you joy. Like the Maria, the organizing woman. Think about things that bring you joy. Think about things you find yourself doing when nobody's watching. Right?
I think those are important points. And Patty, we're going to have you back on another show where
okay.
we have a chance to go more in depth about your book. So listeners, I want you to know out there, I want to thank Patty for being my guest on the show today. And remember, you can get all of your updates for the live upcoming shows. You can subscribe to my YouTube channel at drbarbaradio@gmail.com. And if you'd like to be a guest on the show, it's easy. You can contact me at drb@godshookups.com. And I got other news for you. You can follow me on any new radio, TV shows on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and that's at Dr. Barbara Young. So I want you to share this show with your friends because Patty has been an exceptional guest today to share her story. And remember, these shows are every Friday at 11:30, 1:30, and 2:30. And I have another guest coming on, God's Hookup Show. The next show, I have a gentleman by the name of Jim Cathcart. Jim Cathcart who'll be on the show. And you've got to listen to this man who's delivered over more than 3,300 paid presentations around the world. And he's an author of 20 books and 3 international bestsellers. So you want to stay tuned to hear him on the next show. So again, Patty, love you much, girl. And thank you so much for being on the show today. As we conclude the show today, I want to say thank you and God bless you.
Thank you.
We're out.